am Attorney Regal Oliva, and I will be your host for this show, Partners in Law, with the Cebu Lady Lawyers Association. And today we are very honored to have with us one of the most prolific lawyers I know and the most prolific writers also in Cebu City. And we will be discussing one of a very controversial, interesting, and beautiful discussions about her book, Nullity and Annulment, a non-lawyer's guide to the Philippine law on marriages. And I'm sure a lot of you televiewers are asking questions about unsa man gyud di ay ni ang nullity ug annulment ug unsa gyud ang difference sa duha. And so today I'd like to call in Attorney May Aguilar. Hello.
Hello, Attorney Regal.
Hi, Attorney May, and thank you very much for joining us this morning or this for this day. I am so happy that you're with us.
It is a pleasure and a huge honor, especially to be talking to you.
Ay, wow. This book is just 500 pesos, by the way, very cheap. And if you have questions on nullity and annulment, this it's like you're talking to May already here. Mura kag istoryahan ra gid niya. I have to say that this the first time I read this book was just I started that this morning, and then it took me around siguro 1.5 hours just to read around 65 pages already. So it's an easy read, not only for lawyers but even for non-lawyers. Now, Ma'am May, my first question is on the title itself. What's the difference? Unsa may diferensya sa nullity and annulment?
Kanang nullity, Attorney Reg, and for our audience and our viewers, kanang nullity represents cases nga void gyud from the beginning, because you do not nullify something that doesn't exist. When we talk about void marriages, magod, they do not exist. Kay void lagi. So
Okay.
wala. So we do not say we annul. We ask the court to declare them null.
Okay.
And that's why nullity siya. Declaration of nullity. So kanang Article 36, mahugog na siya sa declaration of nullity. When we say annulment, we refer to voidable marriages, because the voidable marriages are valid in the beginning and then they have a defect, and that's why you ask the court to annul them.
Oh, so ang kinihap basta so sa jurisdiction sa Pilipinas, Attorney May, duha di ini ang makapabreak og marriage.
duha.
So
Nullity.
nullity og annulment.
Annulment, yes.
Kaya ang pirmi gid natong madunggan lang gyud. Nga sa
Annulment
mga tao,
man.
annulment lang gyud,
Annulment
wala
lang.
gyud nullity.
Even lawyers make that mistake, Attorney Reg.
Okay. So unsay under sa nullity?
Okay, ang under sa nullity, you ask the court for declaration of nullity for void marriages like Article 36, psychological incapacity, which is very popular
Kana
among
mao
the
ginahina.
audience.
So ang psychological incapacity is
Is void.
under nullity.
Under nullity.
Di na siya under annulment.
That's why we
Oh.
always tell lawyers, please don't say annulment, because it's not an annulment, it's a declaration of nullity.
Okay, there you go. So mo na siya ha. It's that's very important to know nga ang ato gang basis is psychological incapacity, nullity of the marriage.
Yeah, you ask for declaration of nullity.
Okay, so what else?
Kanang incestuous marriages.
Okay, incestuous marriages mo ni ang nagpakasal ka sa imong igsuon.
Igsuon or ascendant.
Father, mother, or igsuon
Father,
imong uncle.
daughter.
Incestuous?
Kuan na siya, dili na siya incestuous, but that's still under void marriages.
Okay.
That's marriage that is prohibited by public policy.
Basta incestuous lang yun, direct ascendant.
Direct ascendant and descendant.
Okay. Ascendant and descendant pero magsuon pod.
Magsuon po.
Alright,
yes.
apil na siya. So,
yes.
incestuous marriage is void.
Yes.
So, it means from the very start, gid na siya pwede.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
What else?
Collateral relatives up to the 4th degree. So
Okay,
diha
there you
masod ang uncle, igsuon sa imong mama.
Di pwede.
Pwede.
So, mama, first
Oh,
degree cousin.
First cousins, yes.
Okay. Kung sa paman, imong nephew.
Kutob
Amo
sa
gyapon, no? Imong umangkon.
ipon na nimo og upat.
So unsa ang pag-ihap? Kana
Ihap.
gyud may kitag fourth degree of consanguinity.
Ah.
May kita ana dili na, it means unsa man na siya sa atong lang layman's term.
How should I say it?
Second degree cousin.
Second cousin is already 7th man tingali.
Oh, so first degree
fifth, sorry,
cousin.
First cousins gyud ang masod.
So basta may kitag fourth degree of consanguinity
Yes.
sa balaod lang ha. Nga dili pwede first
First,
degree cousin.
Mo ihap ta Attorney
Okay.
Red, so ako kintahay. So ako I am 0.
Okay.
My nanay is 1.
Okay, so pataas ha?
Pataas.
Oh,
Kunya,
1.
common ascendant ni nanay, so si lolo, 2.
Yes, 2.
So, ang anak ni lolo nga igsuon ni nanay, 3.
Okay, imong iyaan, imong uyuan, third.
Nga igsuon ni nanay.
Okay.
So, ang anak niya may 4.
Okay, so
So,
first degree. Diya na takutob.
Diara kotob. So, ang anak ani, 5th naman, pwede na nimo minyoan.
Pwede na siya.
Di na masod.
Pati imong second degree cousin.
Yeah, so because when you go up, so si lolo 3. Musaka naman sad kag 4 to the common lolo pag yun. Munaog ka sigsuon ni lolo 5. Munaog na po ka sa igagaw ni nanay 6.
And then
So 7th yun lagi
gid
ang
second
second
degree
cousin. So dili.
Okay.
Dili.
So dili na siya kawanhang mangitag fourth degree, dili na mismo ang mo include sa second degree cousins.
dili
Kay
na.
sa ato mong layman good,
Oo.
second degree cousins
Do-
so ika fourth layo na kay fourth,
Oh,
di ba?
layo.
So
Yeah.
masaka ka din paubos balik mo na siya ang pag-count.
You go back Attorney Reg to the common
Okay.
ascendant.
There
And
you
then you
go.
go back down.
So ang sa nas balaod fourth degree of consanguinity,
Yeah.
meaning to the first degree
First cousin.
Okay, so dili pwede. Unsa pay void nato? Attorney May?
Void is stepfather and stepdaughter.
Stepfather and
Stepdaughter or
Dili
stepmother
pwede.
and stepson.
Okay.
Dili na included sa civil code, murag gi-prohibit tong stepbrothers and stepsisters.
Okay.
Pwede na siya under the family code.
Really?
Ang steps, yes.
So, ang stepbrother and sisters, pwede na
Pwede ra.
magpakasal?
Ang mother, son, or father-daughter mo hindi.
Okay, so, that's very clear.
Yeah.
Another.
Father-in-law, daughter-in-law.
Oh, dapat
Di,
lang po,
pwede.
no? Father-in-law, daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, son-in-law, dili pwede
dili,
na siya.
pwede.
Okay, so katong nagkaminyo, mga sexy kay mother-in-law, uy, dili mo pwede, ana. Dili na siya pwede. Okay, so, unsa pa itong manalified
ang
na
manalified
marriages?
pwede, dili pwede sad ang common adoptive parents.
Oh,
so,
okay.
kung ako, mo-adapt ko og bata nga laki og bata nga babay, dili sila pwede.
Kay mura
magbinya.
silang magsuon.
Magsuon
lagi na
man,
sila.
yeah. They're considered to
under
be,
the law, in the eyes of the law, di na sila pwede.
Di
Kung,
pwede.
kung duha
Yeah.
imong adopted, different
Different,
parents, even different biological parents,
yeah.
di gyapon sila pwede.
dili sila
So they're void.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other ang ato
So,
other cases pa
Ben,
nato din ha.
napapasa ko an steps and in-laws, parties related by
Kaya ang
adoption.
first chapter manggod sa kuan ni Attorney May is on void marriages
Yeah.
and voidable marriages.
Attorney na aligre
yes.
kaning parties involved in murder.
Oh, kana sige daw.
If you are
Let's talk about that.
if you're in love with somebody who is married,
Oh.
ayaw lang yun patya ang bana or asawa ha. Because if you're convicted of the murder of his spouse or your own spouse, if you're the one who's married, ma-void imong marriage to that
To the person.
Kulata lang nga mamatay.
There you go.
Kana.
That's so interesting, ha?
Yeah.
Pero in the very first place, di good pwede mo patay og tao.
There you go.
Mao gini sakto. But if
Yeah.
you're involved to any criminal offense
Yes.
or any criminal
Yeah.
violation,
Yeah.
that will promote you from, na imong minyuon ang imuhang kirida or imong number 2, imong patyo nimong asawa or imong bang bana, ang imuhang succeeding marriage dili pwede.
Void siya. Yeah.
Ah,
Ma-void siya.
So kailangan magpakasal na kaglain, di ba?
Oh,
Sa case? There you go.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. See, we can learn so many things in this show, no? With Attorney May po, no, in as guest. But first, before we continue, Attorney May, unsa man gyud difference sa May Pono ug May Aguilar?
Patay. Lagi. Yeah, I think I have to explain that because it's connected with the book. And also because people know me as May Pono, but then my
Yes.
book is May Aguilar. Okay. I had 2 marriages, Attorney Red.
Okay.
My first marriage was nullified. Sorry, it was declared null and void under Article 36, and the family name of the first husband was Aguilar.
There you go.
And I was using Aguilar for 20 years in my practice as lawyer.
Okay.
But then, after 8 years from the nullification of my first marriage, I remarried.
There you go.
And the second husband's family name was Pono.
Pono. There you go. So it's an apropos book for you, beauty.
Yeah.
That's why this comes from the heart.
Yes, it does.
But okay,
It does.
doesn't it hurt you to be chismis lang eh? Personal
Marites.
question. Okay, doesn't it hurt you nga mubutang mo content Aguilar when you're ang imong present husband karon?
Oh, sorry to say that my second husband died in
Oh, I'm so
2019.
sorry.
It's okay,
I'm so
attorney.
sorry.
It's okay, attorney. He died in 2019 of cancer, and but even when he was alive, attorney Aligre jud kay ni. I decided that for 20 years, attorney, I had been May Aguilar in the practice of the legal profession.
Correct.
So, attorney, I said, I am May Aguilar.
There you
I am not anybody. May Aguilar is me. It's not the person married to this person. And so I went to court, attorney, to ask for authority to use an alias.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, and you may be interested to read the decision of the Court of Appeals, and that's very beautiful. I will give you a copy.
Oh, wow.
But in gist, attorney, kanang nangayo ko og authority to use May Aguilar as an alias, even if legally I am supposed to be May
May
Pono.
Pono.
And it will interest the audience to know that both my first husband and my second husband came to court to testify that they had no
My
objection.
goodness, that would be another show, May.
It is.
Wow, ha? Well, let's discuss that
Yeah.
in toto in another show.
In another
I like
show.
that because that's another case.
Pabasahon tekas decision because it's really beautiful for women. It is
Exactly. Especially for those women who are abused, women who are suffering
Yes.
from a very bad marriage,
Yes.
and then you can still use, di ba? Sakto pud ka because in the practice of law,
Yes.
it is your name is very important.
Yes.
Diba?
Yes.
It's not only the person, but the name is so important because it should
Yes.
have a name recall.
Yes. No, name
And so if you are known as May Pono, May
May
Aguilar
Aguilar,
already
yeah.
in the law
Yeah.
community, it's so
I should
difficult
be
to
allowed
just
to use it.
Yeah,
Yes.
oh, yeah.
It's already me.
amazing. Okay, I really want to hear more of that. But
Yes.
let's proceed to kay taas kini ang ato ang discussion kay
Dako,
usay ka
Jud.
libro ang atong i-discuss in 40
Yeah.
minutes, Mame.
Okay.
So void marriages, and so what's under void marriages aside from those that you mentioned?
Di ba,
Naman to yung
Bigamos
essential
and-
requisites,
bigamos-
and polygamous
bigamos and
relationship.
polygamous kanang maminyo na ka. So that's bigamos.
Okay.
Now, what if your husband or wife disappeared? So absentee. Unya, you thought nga he had died already. So pwede man ka magminyo ang nag-usab.
After how many years?
Under the family code, 4 na lang.
Ay, okay.
7 to
So sa
before.
mo pa na ipa-declare na patay mo siya?
Ipa-declare, ikuan siya, declaration of presumptive death.
Okay.
Only for purposes of remarriage, attorney.
Alright.
Oh, not for purposes of inheritance or lahi po na siya nga issue. So anyway, what if the spouse nga na-declare
Muri-appear.
So your
Oh.
second marriage becomes void upon the filing of an affidavit of
Oh,
reappearance.
no kidding.
No kidding. Kana
Tapos kung nakaanak na mo, what happens to your children?
legitimate ang mga bata.
Legitimate siya.
Legitimate ang mga bata. Those are among the few
But kung
exceptions.
mubalik ni siya, ang katong imuhang gipresume nga dead already for purposes of remarriage, unsa man, does he have the right to go bed and board with you?
He does after the filing of the appearance
No
affidavit.
kidding.
Oh.
Kung sa pa
Kay-
na ako, ana mami.
Hangyo anay na lang ato ni Reg. Hangyo anay. Kay nga
Oh,
no
my
kanang
goodness.
wa man tay bad faith din he.
Oh, yeah,
And
exactly.
Dili man sad manalify imong second marriage until your first husband files the affidavit of
But hindi
reappearance.
kung samok-samok lang yun si first husband, mami.
Oh, good.
And then the law is in
Naogyat.
his hands.
Maogyat.
That's
Sad, good
That's
siya.
sad, no? That's sad.
Good siya.
Oh.
But other than that, I think you were going to the direction of kung wala gani tay requisites,
Oh, kana.
kung kulang tag requisite, absent ang usa ka requisite, there are 5 man.
Oo.
Wala gani na siya, void sa dang marriage.
So reminder lang gud sa magpakasal unsa gud ka importante ang requisites.
Yeah.
Now what are these
the
requisites?
first requisite, duha man na siya ka essential requisites.
Essential.
Legal capacity and consent.
Okay.
So, legal capacity is age and sex.
Alright.
Age is 18, sex is between man and woman.
Okay, so
Very specific.
kanang
at-
below 18 years old dili pwede.
void gyud ang
Okay, meaning ana wa gyud marriage may tabo.
No, void.
O kanang mga same-sex marriages.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in our jurisdiction,
Oh.
wala pa gid in taon na siya masulod. Sa
Pero what if magpakasal ko sa US, mami? Because that is also my, my dilemma. Because if I have a
Wala.
partner and I want to, enjoy also the benefits of
Correct,
marriage
correct.
with my partner, can I marry in other jurisdictions?
I would ayaw lang yung ko ikot. wala man gud wala man gud
Public.
oh,
Okay.
wala man gud tay jurisdiction pa. But in my mind, what is valid abroad is is considered here to be valid
Okay.
also. So, kung magpakasal ka dito, nya valid dito where you had your marriage done. Unsa may mahimo sa Filipino, that's my thinking.
Okay,
But
okay.
some would say nga dili daw because
Against public policy.
or against the
But
law.
what happens to your properties, Mame? Your properties, if it is if these are located in the Philippines,
Philippines.
and I am married abroad,
Yeah, nya mo invalidate imong marriage dire, dili ka.
and what happens to our children?
Ang imong ang children kay imo lang gyud na siyang i-cover by
Kay adoptive man siya.
adopted man.
Okay.
So regardless man whether you're married or not. So the children why problema?
Alright.
Ang ako makita nga problema is ang bana.
Yes.
Bana
Yes,
kay
yes.
or the partner.
The spouse.
The spouse kay ngano kanang dili man siya ka-inherit from you if ma-declared invalid ang inyong marriage.
Here, in our jurisdiction.
Here. And that's the
Oh,
problem.
Okay,
So,
okay.
last will and testament lamang tingali.
So that's the
transfer or unsa ba?
okay. Mahalo ko na last will and
Corporation.
testament kasi pat yun taan sa iyo na pud Mame.
Correct.
Kanang mga kwan sa salida, no?
Yeah.
Pero kinsa man pud ganahan magpa-last will and testament, dako kay bayad ang
Dako.
filing fee pud Mame. Di ba 2%?
Ang sa probate.
Oh,
Yeah.
ang to probate.
Pwede man pug di na to ipa-probate kung wala rang poy mo oppose.
So unya na lang natin.
Unsa na lang, unya na lang
Okay.
kinain mo.
Pero voidable marriage, okay, umanaman ta sa essential requisites.
Ah.
Pero minggitag non-essential requisites, what are these?
These are what we call formal requisites attorney.
Okay,
Tulo ni siya kabuok. Ay ganina na ay consent ha, legal capacity and consent.
And consent, okay.
So katong essential requisite ni siya nga kung dili gani mo yango during the wedding, void po di mong wedding.
Ganahan kay ko gisulti sa imong book. Ka for example, dili mo yango, di siya musultig I do. Ang nisulti kay ang best man,
Best man.
di ba? Mingon nga ningon ang pari nga do you accept this woman to be your lawful wedded wife? What ni
Wa mo
tingog ang
tingog.
lalaki?
Wa mo tingog. Wa mo
Oh.
tingog. Unya, ang bridesmaid na nga, lagi padri, okay na siya niya. She's there. She's listening to everything. Is the marriage valid? It's void. Because she has to make a personal declaration.
So it's a
the
pronouncement
consent
yun
has
siya.
to be
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
mo na
another.
siya. So mo na siya duha ka essential. Now the formal requisites are authority sa ning solemnize,
Authority sa
Yeah.
sa nagkasal.
Sa nagkasal.
Okay.
marriage license,
Marriage
Oh,
license.
walay marriage
You have to
license,
get a
void
marriage
na.
license, ha?
and then surprisingly Attorney Reg, marriage ceremony. There has to be a ceremony. You cannot just go to the judge's chamber and sign the document. No, the judge has to
Wow.
solemnize. The judge has to.
So kung wala na siya biskin na pa kay marriage license, so
Void gihapon.
wala gid ang tulo. Kailangan ang tulo na agyon.
Nagi ng tulo. One absent, one dili na siya.
That's voidable.
void.
Void gid siya.
Void.
Okay.
Formal requisite man eh.
All right. So
absence
so
of one.
kanig yung lima ang kailangan gyud. Age, sex,
Age and sex,
age and sex, consent, marriage
authority of the
solemnizing
solemnizing
officer,
marriage license,
and a ceremony.
ceremony.
Okay, so lima gyud ang kailangan gyud to make it a valid marriage. So we will be joined in next by Attorney John Ungab. She will also help us interview and ask questions to the amazing Attorney May Aguilar when we're back after listening to a few messages from our sponsors. Hello, we're back and we still have Attorney May Aguilar, the author of the Nullity and Marriage book on Non-Lawyer's Guide to the Philippine Law on Marriage. And there were a lot of things that we have already discussed in our first segment. And my goodness, daghanday kitag dapat mahibaw-an when it comes to marriages. I'm a lawyer, but still my knowledge in marriages, annulment, nullity is so limited even if you pass the bar. And now I'm joined also by Attorney John Ungab. John, kumusta?
Hi, DepGov. I am well. I'm okay, Ma'am May. Thank you so much
Okay,
for...
John is now calling me DepGov because I'm the Deputy Governor of the Eastern Visayas region of the IBP.
It's a force of habit.
Yes, correct. And then Attorney May here
Yes.
have discussed to us the 5 good requisites gito siya. No, kung wala tong 5 kabuk ganina atong gihisgutan manggod, wa gyoy marriage nga nahitabo. Okay. So ganahan kay ko sa solemnizing officer also.
Yes.
We always take this for granted, Attorney May. Unsa man gid ning solemnizing officer? kinsay pwede rin yung mukasal og tao?
Tulo ra gyud na Attorney Reg. Tulo ra gyud na siya as a regular course ba. So pare, mayor o huwes. Mo ra gyud na siya.
Pare or pastor, ma'am?
Yes. Pastor, imam sa Islam.
Religious ko anak.
Yes, or
religious.
anyone that is sanctioned by their religious,
Their religious order.
Yes.
So, depende unsay imong religious order or church, the only important thing is that one of the parties has to be a member of that church.
Okay.
Kana. So, judge of course, then the mayor. Ang naay tulong nga kanang under circumstances nga dili normal. For example, somebody is dying on a boat or a plane. The pilot or the kapitan sa barko can solemnize.
Kapitan sa barko pwede mo solemnize.
Or kapitan sa or
Kaya
piloto.
kanang malunod ng barko, diba pakasal tagdalit-dalit na siya.
Di man nakuhan man Attorney Reg, I think dili siya musud kay ngano kanang in articulo mortis bitaw.
So what
Yes.
is articulo mortis?
okay.
Kana mo akong ganan pa minaw.
Ang artikulo
Dugayan ako kadungog
articulo
nga
mortis?
term
Bagay.
Attorney Regal.
Lagi. Okay. Kung malunod ang barko, is that articulo
Dili
mortis?
pa man kay pwede mo kag mo survive. There's no fear of impending death. Kanang yung
nadunggaban ka.
Dunggaban ka, nya bleeding profusely and then you feel like you're dying. Muna na siya artikulo mortis. So, you
so-
really feel that you are dying.
So pwede ka magpakasal.
Pwede na magpakasal ang article mortis. So wala na ni lisensya and then the kapitan of the boat or the pilot of the plane can solemnize the marriage.
So pilot of the plane or kapitan sa barko, kung kamatyunon na gyud ka, kailangan bagid fatally wounded ka. For example, lang yung heart attack.
Maglisod ko sa heart attack, you know why? Inig maatake na din ang nakatingog. Gusto ko mo na pagkalis. Diba?
Okay.
So I think kanang mapusilan kay gi-hijack, mapusilan siya and then the victim is bleeding and then mamatay na ko.
For example, kanang gi-airlift, Attorney May, gi-airlift na kay because naglisod na gyud ginhawa, the person is dying, gi-airlift na to from Cebu to Manila. Then ang iyang partner naa sa eroplano.
para sa eroplano.
Can the pilot solemnize it?
maglisod ko ana og ingon nga yes because pagsakay magud sa plane kamatyuno na amurag naa na magigibati. I'm not sure unless siguro dugay kaayo ang plane hingabot unya something develops along the way. But of course this is my opinion.
Okay.
Wa man tay
So, patay jurisprudence
lagi
niya.
ana nga.
Alright.
Napadyo usa ka requirement Attorney Reg, it has to be between passengers and crew.
I see.
Passengers and crew only.
So
In your example in your book, I'll go to the example of Mame, ha? For example, nag-layover daw ang eroplano. Nanisud ang imuhang boyfriend.
Yes.
Man ikaw nag-artikulo mortis na kadinhi. Can the pilot marry nga di man pasahero ang boyfriend?
issue na siya.
So kinalag passenger manifest.
Passenger man. Yes, muna akong isa-isa na ko ka example, I think farther down. Ingon ko nga, for example, musakay in the middle of the trip, musakay sa barko ang usa ka
Dili na passenger ang tawag nimo.
Di naman passenger lagi.
Okay.
Bayri ang pamasahe.
Para mahimo si passenger.
Ako
Okay.
yun ako na nga. Pabayra na lang, papalitan na lang siya ticket.
Para mahimo si pasahero.
Para
Okay.
na ako
Yes, correct.
Just to comply.
Bitaw,
With the
how will it
requirement,
be? How will you become a passenger? The only way is to pay the
pay
fare.
the fare.
Yeah,
Alright,
purchase a ticket.
Purchase a
diba?
ticket.
Correct.
Kanang artikulo mortis, Ma'am May ba, does it have to be under the consciousness of an impending death?
Yes, consciousness of impending death.
Okay, what if, di ba, like for example, you feel that you're dying at that moment, unya, survive ka after the solemnization of the
Okay ra
marriage.
gyud na siya. Attorney, basta kay at the time you felt that you were going to die. Okay na, more na requirements article mortis. Even if you survive later on, that's fine.
Pero let's go back to the katubitang imong gi-mention, Mami, nga membership between katong authority of the solemnizing officer to solemnize the marriage between members of the same church. You know, there are some ang good, di ba, nga murag uso naman kanang mga destination weddings karon unya dili na gid kahuwat sa pareho sa Katoliko. Unya they engage the services of a pastor to solemnize the marriage simply because they want to have it outside the church. They want to have it at the beach or a wedding.
Priest,
Or sometimes they musugot ang priest. So
Mo nang naibunyag before.
Bunyagan sa ka.
Usa naman ang required nga ma-member dili man both.
Pero
Okay.
aminin natin, mo man nahitabo ba sa kang Chris Aquino?
yes. It was at Boy Abunda's house, diba?
Chris Aquino
Chismis at
and James Yap.
James
diba?
Yap.
Mao na ilang gikuan nga the authority of the solemnizing officers na nagkasal sa duha ni James ug ni Chris was not
priest.
No,
Na parehos na
he was not a priest, pero muna na parehos ng Catholic, but if he was a pastor, that Boy Abunda was part of.
Pero wala sila gibunyagan. Kay
Wala.
ang uban kay mo bunyag, dapat mo bunyag. To na member ka before the
All right, okay.
Technically,
That's practical. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Or what
So,
if
kinsa
they
may-
don't want to give up their kuan? Their
Pwede naman ka mabalik gud gyapon. O ana man gyapon na ba magpabunyag ka next day balik ka sa imuhang
Correct.
imong
Yeah.
original denomination. Pero kinsa pa kuan na to? We mentioned already the priest, the judge, the imam, and then the mayor,
The mayor.
the captain of the boat, the pilot of the plane. Kinsa pa may pwede?
kanang
Military.
commander.
Military
Ang
commander.
military commander,
Okay.
but ang akong analysis sa military commander attorney is kuan na gid siya mura bitaw siya substitute kay ning requirement ng law nga kinahanglan na ay pastor. Sa term na
Clergy.
Di
no?
kana di na siya
Or
term
clerk.
sa
Basta man na siya.
basta murag kana bitawng pastor or priest nagi-assign to the kanang command.
Okay.
So, kung absent na siya, I forgot the term right now, but kung absent na siya, ana ra maka-solemnize ang commander.
Oh.
So, but ang sa commander, the same sa pilot or sa kuan nga kap kinahanglan artikulo mortis pod. The only difference is that dili kinahanglan nga military ang kamatsyonon. Pwede kung residents in the area of military operation, zone of military operation, unya kanang naay kamatsyonon didto unya gag military operation man ya walay makuha.
Pwede
Pwede siya.
military operation ka na naigubat.
Naigubat.
All right.
Oo,
Okay.
naigubat.
All right.
So, pwede siya.
Now, let's talk about daghan nga kay uso kay karong destination wedding,
Yes.
Attorney May. And then namugot yung mga amigong judges, no? Ganahan bitang
Ala.
sila ang mukuan nato, sila ang mu-marry kay.
Oh, no.
kay first, we like judges because short ra ang marriage. Init ba yan ang destination wedding?
Correct.
So short ra. So ganahan ta nga ni judge. So can we, for example, ako inviteon si judge nga na-assign diri sa Cebu City. Ako inviteon og Boracay kay siya mo solemnize nako. Pwede?
Problema taan na attorney. Mahulog ta din ha sa kanang authority sa solemnizing officer because ang judge should only solemnize within his territorial jurisdiction.
Oh, territorial.
Oh.
So, this is the same with mayors.
Mayors, yes.
Okay. So, kung dili ko magpakasal sa Cebu City,
Makakuha kag judge diri sa province of Cebu. RTC, judge.
RTC.
Or MTC, Cebu City.
All right.
Oh.
Pero si Mayor Michael Rama can solemnize
yes,
also?
Yes.
Kung,
In Cebu.
In Cebu City.
Cebu City.
Anywhere in Cebu City.
Yes.
within the province.
Within the-
Pero, pero within
Di
the
naman-
province of Cebu,
di naman.
hindi man siya
Di
jurisdiction.
naman yung jurisdiction ni
Mayor Rama.
Si judge pwede.
Si judge.
Kay
Si judge
RTC,
kay
di ba?
RTC.
Yes,
RTC man.
All right. Wow.
Provincial man ang ilahang jurisdiction.
So warning lang ha sa mga tao nga ganahan magpakasal and then they don't want a priest or any of the pastor ganahan na gid sila ilang mayor.
Ato ta magkuha sa judge dito sa where the wedding is going.
Okay, that's very very interesting.
Kanang mga justices of the Supreme Court,
Anywhere
attorney
in the
anywhere. Okay. So, ug ganahan ko magpakasal or pwede ra kog mag-invite ni
Yes.
Chief Justice.
Yes.
Solemnize.
Anywhere in the country.
So it does not
Ting-
need also nga lalaki ang atong solemnizing officer.
Di
Pwede
naman.
babae?
Di naman.
Okay.
Pwede man.
Okay, so ang justice nga babae pwede, ang judge nga babae pwede.
Ayaw lang suspended ha. Kaya has to be kuan man.
Active
Active man.
service.
And in
dili-
good standing. All
dili
right.
pwede
Okay. So what else ang atong makuan sa solemnizing officer? Okay, these are very simple nga issues that are considered void.
Kanang destination wedding attorney Reg na nga problema ana
Why?
kay under the law niingon magyud siya nga adto ra siya i-perform ang ceremony in the office of the judge or in the church or kuan. Pero na exception dito that people often don't see. Moingon dito nga if you want it somewhere else, you make a request.
To whom do you make the request
To the
attorney?
solemnizing officer.
All right.
So, mo na nga.
So, kung ganahan mo magpakasal og destination wedding,
Yeah.
or even in a hotel, no?
Yeah,
So,
destination.
hindi man na siya, a hotel is not being listed as
In the
one of
law,
the
correct.
venues na pwede kang magpakasal. So, kailangan mo suwat ka.
So what ka?
So,
Request.
kailangan ba na og written answer or reply from the solemnizing officer?
Di man tingali, pero nga ko na for formality tingali, you just make
Ipa-receive
a
lang
request.
gid, no?
Ipa-receive.
But what if
okay.
the solemnizing officer does not execute that document?
Dili siya mo, you mean dili siya mo sugot?
Yes,
Ang
yes.
saman.
Or
Nay flaw.
Na flaw jud siya. Like for
Ah.
example, amo lagi ng uban nga dili man mo sugot ang pari, they get the another denomination na solemnize. It might be a problem. because if they're not members of that church, problema sila, wa may authority. Mo na magpabunyag.
So
Bunyagan.
it goes into the formal requisite.
Formal
yun,
requisite,
yun.
yes,
Ah,
of
okay.
ceremony and authority.
Amazing. Now, there's in my reading of your book, there's also one interesting thing that I'm mistaken identity. Identity ni siya?
Identical twins, tingali pwede, or
Oh, yeah, correct.
or suppose attorney kanang nagkauyab me online.
Oh.
And
Kanang
then
gipang catfish.
or bisan inon tan lang nga
Yes.
tinuod jud
Oo.
niya. Na in love jud ko no niya, and then the guy comes over here and then we get married ingana. Turns out ang ako din kasturya whom I fell in love with and with whom I have a relationship, di day mao sa ninganhi. Iya day brother who looks like him.
Oh,
And then I
my
married the brother.
goodness.
Makay mo kung mistaken identity, I'm sorry. Yan, he arrives 1 hour late, di ba? No, nabiyaan ko sa plane. Ako man ang makasal.
Okay, so those are mistaken identity. And dili na pwede.
Void
Void na.
siya.
Void,
na
yun.
siya.
How dili voidable?
Mo
It's
play,
void.
mo play man siya sa consent
Yes,
attorney.
yes.
So
Alright,
that
there you
consent
go.
would be absent.
So it's not freely given anymore.
Not just not freely given, there's really no consent.
Mm.
Because I consented to be married to A. Unya si B
B
man
ang-
ang naa.
Okay.
So I did not consent to marry B. So consent was totally absent.
So this can happen, ha? That's why the law is also very explicit on this
Yes.
one. Nga, the possibility of things happening, like
Yeah.
mistaken identity. I thought nga, unsa pa ka mistaken identity o magpakasal na ka, nga nagkuan man gid. But that's possible.
That's
ha?
Pero itong
Okay.
kinaraan nga style bitaw during the ancient
tabunan,
times nga tabunan.
Tabunan man. So
Attorney
kana
Regal,
that's
no?
highly likely
Oo.
no nga ma-mistaken.
Unsa tawag ato ng gibuya?
Buya.
Oh, kanang
Anya, di
gibuya.
makita ang naong
Pero
kay
kanang pagbuya,
post.
let's go to sa buya pod. Is that
Valid?
practice valid?
Kung musugot ang parties, why not?
Ah, okay.
Di ba?
Yeah, correct.
Ang question lang din ha, if the parties do not agree, like ikaw, Marika, ikaw, mo kamura, minyo mo. Unya, di ko mutingog. Ako
Okay.
nga party nga gipugos, di ko mutingog. The question there is the marriage void or voidable? Was di gyud ko mutingog, void yun na siya. Kawa man gyud ko mo declare sa akong consent. But what if I said, yes, pero gasakit akong dughan, di gyud unta ko, pero gitutukan man ko diri ko.
O kutsilyo.
Or
Oh.
bisigahan kong mata sa akong tatay dito nga, panitay lang karon. Ting ana.
Kanang shotgun marriage,
Oo.
may tawag na to ana, di ba?
Dili na siya void ha, that's voidable.
Ay,
Because
okay.
you gave consent except that it was not freely given.
So
Ay,
murag
there
bahog
you
siya
go.
vitiated
Vitiated.
consent.
So kung hindi kag I do, sa imong kining isulti na kag I
Yeah,
do,
but
that's voidable.
but sakit sa dughan,
Kung may mo
voidable.
voidable mami, hangtod kanus ana siya.
5 years from the celebration of the marriage, or if ang imong vitiation came from a force, from the removal of that force.
From the removal of that force.
So for example, imong tatay mo yung nag-threaten nimo.
Manamatay si tatay.
From the death of the tatay, 5 years.
Ah, there you go. Pero kung ang nag-threaten mo si Bana,
Si Bana na forever ka din ha. Nga, for as long as the
so
threat
way
is
prescription.
walay matag
okay.
himutang. So
Okay.
from the time that the threat from the Bana, like the Bana goes to the US. So mo count pa na siya.
So ni-end na ang
The
threat.
end ng threat.
Kanilandas, yeah.
Kintahay lang.
Okay,
If the
alright.
threat is physical, that
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Depende
Attorney
man.
May, kanang mga nasa teleserye ba nga pakaslan lang because you want to inherit or you want to gain wealth from the spouse?
Oh.
What does that make the marriage of? What does it make
Valid.
it valid gihapon?
Yes, because gihatag man nimo imong consent freely. Na
alright.
case ana attorney aligri kayo nga kining babae contracted with an American kay gusto siya matog US. Magpakasal ta kay moadto kog Amerika unya inig humatog kasal diri bayran matuko imo kong petition sa Amerika ni bayran ti kag 2,000 US.
Oh,
Pag nuan ako dito.
pwede kayo. Oh.
So nagpakasal sila. Sus kay humanyag gitagaan man yata niya kwarta tong Amerikano ning larga man wa naman igdungog. So now
Kaluoy.
she went to court asking for the marriage to be nullified kay kuno her consent was not given.
Yes.
There was no consent according to her. So her marriage was void kay no consent kay made up raman to where I just wanted to go to the US. You know what the Supreme Court said? Very ingenious. Naingon yung Supreme Court. Uy, because ang regardless of your motive, the fact is ninghatag kasi mo consent right there and then.
Ayan.
Ang imo raman nga ning consent raman ka to the marriage Nya kabaluman sad ka nga dili mabalid imong marriage ka katong Amerika. So in your mind when you said yes, you said yes to a valid marriage.
Okay, that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers your question.
Oh.
O diba? So regardless of your motivation.
So regardless of the why you gave the consent.
Yes, so wala bad faith, good faith ani. Basta kay ni
Basta
sulti lang
kaning
ka.
yes ko nga wala ko gi-threaten,
okay.
wala ko gihadlo o unsa ba.
So mahog ni siya exception to the vitiation of consent.
There
in a way.
really
di po na siya
is no
Dili-
vitiation.
there really is no
vitiation.
Okay, so dito siya voidable pod.
Dili siya voidable.
di pa voidable.
Valid good sa attorney.
Alright, okay. Alam mo, sige gid mo. Kana mag-apas-apas mo mga gold digger po, di gid na. Sige gid mo ana kay valid din yung marriage.
Okay.
What good mo
Mamamatay.
Chugi gid na yung kuan. But okay. Now, when we come back, we will be discussing legal impediments of marriage and also the most controversial psychological incapacity.
Yes.
When we get back. Okay, now we're back and I promised you that Attorney May will be answering what are the legal impediments or unsa gyud ang impediment. Daghang kay gisulti gud nga magpakasal mi pero dili pwede kay nay impediment. So unsa man ning impediment? Okay, Attorney May.
Impediment is kana bang murag gibaraka ba. So
Oo.
tubig dili ka flow kay nagbabag dito, that's the impediment.
Oh,
So
alright.
the biggest most common impediment to marriage is if you're already married to someone else. Syempre kung married na ka to
of course.
someone else, you cannot marry again while that is existing, otherwise the marriage will be bigamous or polygamous for that matter.
There you go. Kaya naman gusto sulti nga, you can only be married if there is no legal impediment.
Yes.
So, kung nagpakasal na kadaan, dili pwede.
Oh.
Now, let's
Or-
go to kanang 5 years mong nagstay.
Oh.
You were staying or you cohabited as husbands and wives. Nag-live-in mo for 5 years. Is there a legal impediment on that
Aligri
one?
kay na siya kay under the law mag-requirement ta og kanang marriage license, right?
Mm.
So, but if you're living together already for 5 years, matangtang ang requirement for marriage license. So, pwede ra kag magpakasal mong duha nga walay lisensya na kay 5 years naman. Cohabitation.
Basta cohabitation, di na ka kailangan marriage license.
Law.
Di na ka muadto sa.
Di na ka madto sa local civil
Well,
registry.
how would you know nga nawala yung legal impediment?
Mao na din hay problema kay
Oo.
ang aligre kay there kaso ana nga si man and woman they live together, right? But si man when they started living together, si man was still married to another woman. Okay. Now about 3 years after sa nag-ipon, namatay ang asawa. Actually, gipatay sa laki. But not because he wanted to marry
To
the other
remarry,
guy. But yeah,
Right,
violent pa
okay.
to siya. So, namatay. So, they only had like living together for like
3 years.
over a
Oh,
year.
2
Over
years.
a year nga patay na tong usa.
Alright, okay.
So, nagpakasal sila after 5 years of living together. Nagpakasal sila, walay marriage license. So, the kids now wanted to nullify that marriage kay void, to have it declared void kay wala lagi marriage license. So the issue now is kanang 5 years of cohabitation, is it required for the whole time dili ka married to someone else? Or pwede ra ba nga at the time of marriage you're not legally married to someone else?
Okay.
Or do you have to be not legally married during the whole time? The Supreme Court said in that case, nakalimut ko sa title na diha, nga you have to be free to marry each other from the beginning of the cohabitation and for 5 years thereafter.
Alright.
Kay kung dili na siya moabot og 5 years, dili
Magkuha kag marriage license.
license ka gyud.
Ay,
Dili
alright.
siya exception.
Pero okay, there is still a procedural flaw on this one. Kay unsa may atong kuhaon anang document, mame. For example, ikaw mayor ka, magpakasal kag duha ka tao who are nag-live-in na for 5 years. Ato lang tawag kog di na ta mag-cohabit kay di na sa kasabot. Nag-live-in mo for 5 years nga wa mo both are single, wala yung legal impediment. Pero ikaw mayor mahadlok man ka magpakasal kay makihaan niya kang what if di nagkasal di ni siyang
Naana siya affidavit, wa ko nang ko kakuha ng affidavit nila, but I think sa affidavit mo declare sa silang there na
Alright.
they have no impediment.
So the mayor is maabsuelto kung na lang din ng affidavit
Yeah,
po.
affidavit
Okay.
lang.
Walang
So, asan na
affidavit
mo
sa
i-file ang
affidavit
affidavit?
of cohabitation.
Oh.
I think they bring it to the solemnizing officer.
Alright, okay. Kay para lang gid mawala lang po ang obligasyon sa
Makihab
solemn-
ya ang
Oo.
solemnizing officer pag og kuan.
Correct.
Administrative.
Kung dili siya ang procedure is not followed.
Because that's dangerous. Okay, so mo ni mga legal impediments. So kanang mga 5 years pwede na mapakasal without marriage license. Nga earlier ato nang gisulti nga that's also a requisite.
The
supposedly.
Catholic Church has programs, Attorney Reg, on mass weddings.
That's
bitaw.
good. Obito ka ng February
Yeah.
14.
Sa among barangay,
Mm.
nana sila constantly mass weddings na
Why are we doing this? Do you know the reason?
kanang
Ngano man kailangan din
Why?
mo pakasal?
kao sa man mass wedding or pakasal.
Kana kay because I think that the real reason why we have mass weddings is that the government or the church really wants the people who have been cohabiting for 5 years already to get married.
Kaya ang ato manggong community and our culture, it is still immoral to be living with a man.
Without
That's one. Yeah, secondly, naman po'y benefits baya ng married ka kay
Okay.
you can inherit from each other.
Yes.
Or the man will have the obligation to support you. Kintahay the wife. So
And children also, no?
children also.
Madili sila
Dili
ma-illegitimate.
pod may legitimate.
Kay ko ang duha ka couple dili kasal,
legitimate mga bata.
illegitimate ang mga bata.
Or non-marital naman na karon.
Yes.
Or non-marital, sorry,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, we
The
call
term
them-
has been changed.
Politically correct na punta.
Yeah.
What do we call it?
Non-marital.
Non-marital.
So,
Non-marital children.
gawas sa
Gawas
kaminyoon.
sa
sila sa kaminyoon. Okay. So we
Yeah.
changed it because we don't want to call it illegitimate because
Yeah.
illegitimate has this stigma.
Yes.
Oh,
No nga bati siya parehara po nang sa unang adopted. So wala din change ang adopted.
Wala ra gyud.
Wala.
O stigma gyapon ng adopted. So let's change that. But let's go to this topic of psychological incapacity.
Yeah.
Kay ever since karos aning napas ang ato ang
1988.
family code in 1988 ever since pila ra ka book ang naaprubahan sa Supreme Court. Ako lang tawag og aprubahan ha, pero kanang gi-grant by the Supreme Court on the basis of psychological incapacity.
Before Tanandal, attorney, if I remember correctly, in the data is also in my book, kanang murag 16. From
16 ra.
1988 to
Gamay ra, no?
2021.
Okay, tan-andal is a decision. Okay, we call it kanang mo na tan-andal amo ikuan kay this is a jurisprudence of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Kani manggod pero okay, let's just clear this mami. Daghan kay psychological incapacity nga na annul or na nullify.
Na-nullify, yeah.
Dili di annul ang tawag nato ana ha. It should be nullified.
Nullified.
So, daghan kay mga ang basis is psychological incapacity. Pero musulti ta ngano 16 ra nga hala akong silingan
Yeah.
na
That's a good
nullified
grant, no?
man to.
That's a good question,
Oo,
attorney. Yeah.
Ano mingon mo 16 ra so sayop kuno ta pero unsa man gid ngano man unsa man na siya
Kana siya ang ningabot sa Supreme Court nga gi-approve sa Supreme Court 16 ra.
Okay.
So kanang inyong silingan nga na-approve wa na gisaka sa Solgen. Wa na nila gisaka on appeal.
by the Solgen.
Oh, a
Okay.
Solicitor General.
So Solicitor General mo na siyang lawyer of the state.
Yes.
Okay. So after mo file sa inyuhang nullity of the marriage on the basis of psychological incapacity there is RTC.
RTC, yes.
Kung giaprubahan sa RTC asa ni padung?
Court of Appeals.
So kinsa may mo sa Court of Appeals? Si
Mudala-
Solgen na.
Si Solgen na.
So si Solgen makakuha sa inyong file nga okay, nga ilang kuha sa lilingaw sa ilang
Walingaw.
opisina,
Ah.
ilang filean sa Court of Appeals.
There was a-
Kung sa ni siya spontaneous combustion
No.
ni siya.
Pero si Solgen
No.
is always involved in the process gid, no?
involved
On the
man sa
get-go,
attorney kay
diba?
Okay.
dili man ka proceed ang imong kaso if you do not notify the Solgen.
Yes.
Alright.
So ma-notify gyud na sa pamilya. Di na sila magtingog ha. Muro na sila og mga lurkers ba. Maghulat ra na sila. Once mag-grant imong kaso, then they take it up on appeal.
There you go.
So, sa mga ini-mini-mini mo na sila attorney
No,
ni,
there was
or-
a time nga kanang ilang mandate was tanan nga mag-grant i-appeal. That was before my annulment was granted.
Oh,
So
wow.
katong ako na ining file, after it was granted, giwarningan ko sa akong friend, sa mentor na kung siya day, kanang imuhang kaso, hangyo ang fiscal nga dili mo apilar because at that time fortunately for me ang Solgen gipang kapoy na change of administration pod kuno dili na sila mo da sa kaso, they will
Deputize,
give it,
no?
deputize na
Yes,
the
yes,
fiscal.
oo.
So dai kan fiscal mo hangyo aday. So I went to the fiscal and asked the fiscal. Unfortunately, di man siya interested to appeal.
Okay. So kanang atong mga kasilinganan, atong mga igagag mga igsuon nga naka-nullify sa ilang marriage because of psychological incapacity. Swerte ra gid mo.
Swerte ra gyud na nga wa na apilan.
Nga wala ni angal ang fiscal
Wala,
or ang
wala
Solgen.
isa.
Now,
Oo.
10 years after nga nullified, pwede pa bang mo appeal?
Dili
Si
na.
Solgen. Dili
Dili
na. Okay, pila ram day prescription ani niya?
Naa murag 30 days raman siguro na.
Okay, so na kay deadline. Okay. So after 30
Otherwise,
days,
ma-final
wala
na
na
siya.
final na inyong
Final na siya.
inyong hindi annul na inyong nullity.
Degree of nullity.
Unless kung interesting kay ang case siguro Attorney Regal no nga murag moingon ang Soljan ba nga murag let's increase jurisprudence
Okay,
kana
so-
siguro.
Bitaw. Okay, let's talk about jurisprudence. Unsa man ditong tan-andal nga case or mingo prior to tan-andal case, unsa man gid unsay examples of psychological incapacity prior to the tan-andal
Okay.
case?
Kana manggong paggawas manggod sa psychological incapacity nga provision attorneys, ang automatic na tong hunahuna nga, uy, pwede na, mura nag-divorce.
Correct.
Because prior to Article 36, kinahanglan nga, ang problema sa imong marriage happened right at the inception of the marriage, like kuwang og requisite or against the law, inana. So kung ang imong ground is only the characterizations, the character or the flaws of your spouse during marriage, huwag yung kay hope ana for breakage of the marital
So mo
bond.
ni gitawag ditong juridical antecedents.
Oh,
no?
so for instance, panitan, palahubog imong bana. Unya kay dili man wala man siya yung ground to have it annulled. So dili ka pa-annul. But under Article 36 manggod, pag iyong psychological incapacity, when he shows manifestations nga di manggod siya fit to become a spouse kay psychologically na siya problema, then pwede nimo siya ipanalify. Nya mo na nga ningon sila nga ay mura og divorce kay if he is a drunkard, if he doesn't give support, pwede man ako ingnon.
So psychological incapacity, kung drunk alcoholic ka, is that
Mao
psychological
na
incapacity?
problema attorney because when we say alcoholic siya, automatic bang psychologically incapacitated? Nya dili man. Kay you have to say that you have to prove that ang iyang pagka-alcoholic
Okay.
is because of a psychological problem.
Ah.
But what if dili siya psychological problem? Batasan lang gyud niya nga ganahan siya mo inom.
Yes.
Correct. Oh.
Oh.
Pero kinsa may musulti nga psychological problem siya, mami?
In the beginning, mo tong nanginahanglan ta og psychiatrist
Okay.
because it was supposedly the psychiatrist who will decide kung naa ba kay personality disorder because kani magong requirement of root cause attorneys kinahanglan magud siya nimo i-prove ang root cause before tanandal you had to prove root cause under the Molina guidelines if you remember
Yes.
na requirement of root cause right.
Katong walo ka buok man na.
Oh,
Yeah.
so one of them is root cause, and which was very difficult because in order to establish root cause, the psychiatrist has to identify a personality disorder.
Okay.
I asked my associate nga, psychology graduate, ingon ko, ngano man nga mo identify man jog personality disorder siya. Attorney May, if you don't identify the personality disorder, it is impossible to identify root cause. Mao dayto nga ngan lang jud narcissistic personality
Yes.
disorder, bipolar, chu-chu.
Okay.
Kaya aron makakonect sila root cause.
Mao po day reason nga nung di po ganahan ang uban gyud nga magtiayon nga "Ay, ako ang naay psychology.
Ah.
Murag they stigmatize it, di ba? Attorney
Stigmatize.
Regal no kay
Mura
murag
ka magsabot mami.
kanang pollution.
Magsabot na lang tabi
Okay.
para makauyab na ko balik.
Okay.
Oh.
Kanang collusion is, ang understanding is magsabot, right? Sabot. But not all sabot is collusion actually.
Okay.
Collusion only happens when wala gitay defect. Wala gitay defect ang duha, but magsabot lang ta nga. Pagawas ang nakuha nga, ikaw mo ay defective diha kay para magranta. That's collusion. But if kung tinuray gyud nga psychologically incapacitated ka gyud or ako psychologically tinuray gyud. And then we go to bisag kay balok ka, ganahan pud ka, and then ingon ko mo file ko o di ko mo post. That's not collusion because
Okay.
na magi-ground.
Pero
Tinuod
okay,
man
for
yun.
example, the psychological incapacity of the man is he is homosexual.
Okay,
Diba?
okay.
Pero si woman po na po psychological incapacity because she's a very narcissistic woman. Guwapa, sexy. Pero that's why na-attracted si homosexual niya because you know, she's the exact woman that I wanna be. So nagpakasal sila. Oh, is there grounds for that? Nga, ina naman nag-accept ilang flaws prior to the marriage.
Voidable ra ng homosexuality attorney. It's not PI.
Oh. Pero kung mo ganyan
ang
yung
narciss,
basis.
ang adto siya sa voidability siguro.
Alright.
But og ang si woman sa narcissistic pwede.
So mo ni basis ni man.
Oh.
Pero naibaw naman siya narcissistic na siya.
Pwede man because moingon man ka nga kanang you saw it pero you
You
married.
thought that she will change.
Oh, or you married her anyway. And then,
Agoy.
turned out nga, it is incurable. Turned out it was grave. Kinahanglan man sa siya grave. Di man po pwede nga, basta-basta lang
Yeah,
nga.
correct.
Ganahan lang yun siya magpagwapa. Dili po na mao.
Okay, so may kitag narcissistic ka ng grave na imo
Yes.
ka narcissistic.
Nga.
Unsa may manifestation sa grave nga narcissism? Kanang itatag sa amin, mami.
Kanang vain kaayo,
Asa man na
hindi
siya,
siguro.
Racism siguro for me is kanang, for example, naakay 20 pesos. And then, gamay, 20 no, din maka-afford. 200 pesos.
Saan aabot ang 20 pesos?
Cornetto.
Ayan. So you have money nga, igo-igo ra gyud. And then you have the choice tingali of buying a makeup set
Or food.
Or sustenance for the
formula sa
family.
imong baby. Formula sa imong baby, right? So and then you would choose this is very simplistic, but ina nilang tingaling example mga I would choose the makeup.
All right.
O niya,
So,
bahalag
there's
magutman
a
akong
part
anak.
of me that I'm a very narcissistic person. Yeah,
O, makay baby.
So,
na kay
mami,
di ba? Di ba? Kana bang imong personality ba nga?
Yes.
Maura gid na imong kwarta atin ni Reg. You have to make a choice. Unya, adto gyud ka sa imong kaugalingon. Unya, bisag mag-suffer tong usa that you are supposed to be supporting or caring for. Kana.
So muna giingon sa
Pwede na
Supreme
siguro.
Court in many cases, Mamay, no, nga, it has to go into your capacity to fulfill your essential
Yes.
marital obligation.
If you do
Yes.
not have the understanding for example din ha, asawa nga dili muluto for the husband.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Alam mo. Alright.
Pwede ba ma-PI? Pwede ba
Yes.
psychological capacity? So, depende sa rason. So, for example, dili siya muluto kay gihilantan siya. That's a physical reason. Of course, di na siya.
Di na pwede. Okay.
Or, di siya muluto kay maglagot siya na mong siyang bana kay di manggani mo hatag og palit og bugas. So, di po na siya PI because that's a refusal.
Okay.
But dili siya muluto because wa jud siya kasabot nga lutuan din ng bana. Ninyo dai ko. Ano di ay?
Pero that's so patriarchal, mami. Di ba?
I know it is.
Oh.
Mangita taglag example nga dili.
Pero is that, can that be psychological capacity?
Kana dili, it's not the fact nga ningluto siya or nga kinahanglan ba siya muluto.
Domestic, like, for example, domestic chores, is that really part of a marital obligation of a woman?
Atong ilisan og mothering na lamang.
Okay.
Or beta pa. Pwede
So what
man
unsa may-
pud sa bana
Oo.
kanang support nimo sa profession sa imong bana ina na.
Okay.
Hindi na lang nang lutuan kay murag patriarchal tinod kayo.
Oo.
Or children. Mother, normal maginas mother to take care of kids, right? So if she doesn't take care of her kids because she is sick, like she's bedridden, dili na. Og moingon ka nga dili ko mo kuani mo atiman nimo sa mga bata kay kanang nga salbahis ka na ako mga anak. So pwede pud because I refuse to.
Oh my goodness.
But if you say nga, ngano di ay og mga anak di ay ko og mugawas ning bata sa akong tiyan, ako din na siyang pakanon or ako din siya nangatimanon. I don't understand.
there you go.
Mao ba? That's probably a psychological incapacity.
Kanang abandonment, Mamay, I mean, kanang contentious man jud kay na siya nga issue bitaw kay sometimes moingon sila nga ang abandonment would be a sign of psychological incapacity. Onya,
Santos case the first case that reached the Supreme Court, abandon niya yung anak less than a year old.
Oh my goodness, we are pressed of time but we haven't even finished psychological incapacity, mame. But karon unsa man gid karon, mame? Kailangan tag psychiatrist karon?
Dili na.
Dili na. Mao ni
Pwede
pinakabag-o
nagwa.
nga decision sa Supreme Court.
pwede nagwa.
But unsa man gid, ikaw nga lawyer ka and you file an annulment case.
Yeah.
Di ba ka mahadlok, di ka mo present
Mahadlok yun ko.
Okay, because you know the Supreme Court has always been,
Yeah.
magsigis ilis-ilis, di
or
ba?
flip-flopping sa mga
So, sa mga
decisions.
gitna.
Ang reason man gud sa Supreme Court when it said nga di na kinahanglan ng psychiatrist is because gitangtang man nila tong root cause.
Okay.
So dili na kinahanglan mangita og personality disorder.
Alright.
Pero para nako, for you to say nga kanang imong pagkapalahubog ug pagkadili mo hatag og kuan, that's a psychological problem. I need a psychiatrist to link.
There you go.
So mo nang makuha gyapon kog psychiatrist.
Para na ko po, no? Let's just be safe about it because anytime the Supreme Court may flip-flop, no?
Yes.
And then,
pwede bitaw, mausap.
mausap na po ng ilang decision because your case might be different from the Tan-Andal or the
Correct,
Molina case.
correct, yeah.
But okay, we're pressed of time and yes, sakto jud ka. This might need part 2. Okay, we might I hope that your schedule will permit and
Yeah.
we'll discuss siguro one entire segment for just psychological
Yes.
incapacity.
Grabe ang-
But Mame, we thank you very much. And before we end this partners-in-law, John, do you have any message for our televiewers?
Ang ako lang gyud is let's not be hasty. Sometimes we fall out of love and then mo file na lamang ta og psychological incapacity because we want to get out of the unhappy marriage. Ang ako is if there's a way for us to be able to correct it, to to work on it, let's do that. But if wala nagi paglaom, and then make sure lang that the kids are not unduly damaged by the decision.
Asa man makapalit atong viewers sa imong book, ma'am?
Naasa sa Shopee, attorney, but naapod siya sa among office, which is located at the second floor of JY Mall in Lahog. JY Square Mall in Lahog.
And if you want, you can also leave sa IBP
Oh yeah.
some
Yeah,
copies so
pwede
that lawyers and the students, especially, I would have to say, and I was telling Mame kanina, if you are reviewing for the bar and you'll read this, it will be a soft read, and it will actually just take shells of your stock knowledge. And
Bitaw.
Amazing. I like what you quoted from
Attorney
Attorney Negli Villanueva. Negli, I'll quote you tonight. And this is, the choice of spouse is the first act you do for your children. If your marriage does not work, you can sever your marital bond, but you cannot unfather or unmother your parent.
Wow.
That's
That is a lifetime burden you place on your children.
Very powerful words.
Yes,
no?
yes. Yeah.
John, do you have anything to say for our televiewers?
Thank you so much for spending your time with us karong gabi una, and we hope to see you next time, Attorney Regal.
Yes. Okay, so next time we will be discussing more issues, more matters on law, and we will have guests for you. And yes, we hope to get you back, May Aguilar, and see you next episode.